is going on?
Lack of knowledge is our problem. We're not really sure at the moment.
Fountain bin shirts.
One last look at this sexy beast before we put it in the car. It's time. We've waited a lot of days for this. We had to order parts. We had to get a torch because it's time to cook the pumpkin. You want to explain what we got to do here real quick?
Yeah, since these are two different types of materials, what we figured out is cast iron. About 90% of the internet says it is.
Wait, when you say figure it out, we polled internet forums. We trolled internet forums.
No, and when you grind it, cast iron has orange sparks and cast steel has red sparks. This had orange, so.
Wrong.
That's a good indicator.
His laughing makes me not trust his science, but here we are. So,
yeah, cast iron.
And then this is mild steel.
Correct.
So now we got to mate those two together.
So welding the two, it's a little tricky. There is a little bit of different process. So you have to use a MIG wire that's heavy in nickel, and nickel will combine the two materials.
So what exact wire are we running today?
We are running nickel 55. Before that, you got to preheat this whole center section, essentially the pumpkin, and you want to get it between 500 to 700.
That's right. Step one, preheat the oven to around 500 degrees. You're gonna stick the pumpkin in, or kind of like that.
Yeah.
He's like, bro, this ain't a fucking cooking show. Anyway, so we're gonna heat this thing up with my favorite new tool. 500 degrees?
500 to 700. That's a big variance.
That seems like a big variance.
And the whole reason you want to weld this to the center section is because this whole tube just slips into this cast iron section, and they just plug weld here in like 4 different spots. And with like the torque this VR6 is gonna put.
Oh wow!
with
I heard a lot of doubt right there. Anyway, yeah. So because of the massive amounts of power the VR6 and torque it's gonna put to the ground,
yeah,
we figured while it was out, it was good to do anyway.
Yeah. Otherwise, just these plug welds alone will just rip out this whole center section and it won't be fun. So
the reality is the 300 horsepower this is going to create probably won't do that, but it's fun to do things. Quick, hold the camera.
Shit's hot.
What's going on?
285. By the way, these guys were nowhere to be found. The minute they heard a blowtorch go and everybody shows up.
We just got done stuffing our faces.
Get in my belly!
280.
Alright, that's over 5. Let's do the other side. Alright, we're over 500.
Yeah. When you weld it, it's 3,000.
Is it?
Yeah, when you, I got right into your thing on accident. Also into my eye.
Very All right, so everyone ditched me because it kind of stinks in here. But I got everything welded. Not the prettiest welds, just because like the type of material that we're welding, it's kind of nasty, and that nickel wire kind of stinks. So we're actually gonna wrap it in a fiberglass blanket. Luckily, we have this sick Thermaltech like heat barrier, and this will work perfect. The whole purpose is to slow down the cooling of this whole tube as slow as possible. If it cools too quickly, then these welds will eventually just crack. We're gonna get that wrapped up, turn off this big ass fan, and wait a couple hours till it cools. All right, so it's wrapped up. Thermaltech heat blanket. This is actually pretty warm. So I'm gonna insulate it even more. Grab the moving blanket. Kind of found bin shirts. Left them laying around. Like I said, the slower it cools off, the better. So we'll just get this wrapped up, let it sit. But yeah, after that, we can pretty much pull it down and then we'll get it sprayed and then bolt it up back to the car. But that's finally the last step. It's been a long process. If you have the money, just pay someone to do this because we're stupid and we want to try it ourselves. So there it is.
All right, it's the next day, and our pumpkin is nicely cooked. Yo, I came here last night after everyone was gone, and I just reached my hand in because you had this all like wrapped up.
Yeah.
It was still warm.
I know.
Dirty.
Dude, I wonder how long it actually stayed warm for.
And you think it's still straight, right?
Yeah.
There was a lot of hesitation there.
We'll find out.
We'll find out
when you have camber when you're not supposed to.
When we put the axles in and see. Yeah. But anyway, so now we're gonna finish cleaning it up, remove a little bit more of the original paint that was on here, give it a nice little coat of steel it, and then reassemble it. And the goal here would actually be to dress the entire axle, because I want to put everything on it all the way down to the links, brakes, the whole setup before we throw it in, because I want to weigh it. All right, the boys got the axle housing all painted up for me. Looks really nice. Pretty stoked on how this whole thing came out. It's crazy how beefy it looks. Anyway, we got everything else here, put this all together. So more stuff from T3. These are the rear links, and they make these sort of they call them bananas. They have a little kink in them, and it's so that you can make the car lower. So, because these are here, when it goes all the way down, they don't kink. So it gives you more space. I like a place that thinks about performance and style.
Oh God.
A dual caliper rear mount set, so service all these Wilwoods in the rear. We also have this, which is the LSD we took off the car last time, but we want to make it a little spicier. And the great thing is you can actually do that right through your Ford dealership. This right here is the carbon clutch pack kit that you can get from Ford Racing. So the kit comes with all the carbon clutch plates that go in, and it comes with a new spring, some other stuff. We've got everything else to put this back together. So we are going to reassemble the entire axle and then weigh it, because I keep saying I want to do that. Put it all back together. But first, we're gonna rebuild the diff. I've never done this before, so we'll probably get it wrong. First up is to actually take apart this diff and soak these in the additive, which is the friction modifier. So we're gonna start getting these soaking as we take this apart, and I don't know, follow some instructions I think Ford sent us. They come in the box. Try not to screw it up. I wish everyone included an exploded view diagram. Makes it so much easier to put things back together. So we just popped out the old spring using this, and some safety. Now we're gonna mark these in here so we know which side they're on when we reassemble them. All right, so now we're down to a bare casing, marked all this stuff, wrote it down on the cardboard. So this has been soaking for well over 15 minutes now. Now the whole question is what the stack looks like. So I've never built one of these before, but I've done a bunch of research, and everyone says that we should stack them a little bit tighter because the actual factory stack is not that aggressive. So we're gonna actually use some of the stuff that came out of the used ones, what the recommendation is. Basically following the instructions, we're gonna add one extra shim to make it a little bit tighter so it locks up faster. We start with, I think what they just call steel, and then one of these. 2 steels then?
Yep.
Okay.
And a stinky guy.
I cannot believe, I wish you guys could like scratch and sniff and smell how bad this is.
Maybe we stick the shim in between the 2 metal ones.
Yeah, that's what other people seem to have done. So. 6'9".
I can get behind that.
Maybe because we're not actually pinching it. Because everyone I've seen do it measures it with a clamp. 6'5".
So you're on the bottom end now of what?
Yeah. Okay, let's add the extra shim and see. As long as we can get it back together. All right, that was a little too tight, so we're gonna pull the shim out, or if lack of knowledge is our problem, we're not really sure at the moment, but the shim did measure too big, and we figured just stuff it in there anyway. Turns out it might have been a problem. Down one.
We have to compress it or this cartridge.
Right.
Are you gonna put the motor in it?
Nah, we're just gonna build the whole rest of the car, so that way when someone else buys it from me, at least I can say everything else is done.
Fully built roller.
By the way, you hit me with something, and I was like, yo, I want to build the F600 next. And you were like, teach me your ways. And the thing I was gonna reply to you was, the excitement on me starting the F600 people will forget that I didn't finish the VR86.
Finish this thing. What is it? We'll do that later in the year. Just get this fucking whole ass thing filled.
All right, so we're gonna try to grab this now.
We're gonna compress it and then grab it with the vice grips because this size will not fit inside this hole.
So you're gonna grab with the vice grip like that?
Yes.
Okay. How much do you want to compress it?
As much as I can.
This is
This is
definitely.
where safety
This is like
glasses-
safety glasses
safety
for sure. Old fucking one-eye Scotto. The vice grip did that much. Grab it from the other side.
Yeah, they're both
too.
sides. So. Let's see how this is gonna go into that hole. Temper the hammer.
You think it's close?
Yeah.
Wasn't as scary as I thought it was gonna be. When the noise went, I'm like, that's it, I'm losing a wrist. Get in the jaw.
No gunshot, yeah.
Seems to be hit. No, I think we just cleared. It was easy in the end. All right, we got this done. That's snugged in. Voila. So now we've got Ford traction lock with Ford Performance carbon discs. In the end, we didn't shim it any tighter because the stock shimming pack for the actual performance one, for the carbon plates, was I think at the maximum, which was 0.66. So seems good to go. Still smells so bad in here, doesn't it?
The office smells horrible.
It's crazy.
I think everybody's gonna evacuate.
They're over there doing that stuff. All right, so here we are, stock setup right here, fully dressed, coming in at 162 pounds. What do you think this? Fully dressed with coilovers, brakes, the whole shabazz.
220, 235, 225.
Say 229.
229.
219 and a half.
219 and a half. I'm gonna go 245.
240. Nah, 225 for sure.
Okay, so since we've shortened the axle housing, we also have to shorten the axles. And the way that is done is by basically using two of the shorter ones. Because stock setup, you have one long axle and one short axle. It's now set to run two short axles. So this one, which we got from the yard, longer, and then this one I ordered pretty quickly from eBay. And it came a day or two later. Now we got two shorts to make that work. New clutch packs in the diff. Gonna start putting it all back together. Got these ARP joints, long studs, because nothing says race car than extended studs. They're probably way longer than I need to be. These are 3s, 2.5s would have been a good size, but we just banged the other ones out. We're gonna press these in real quickly on both rears. A lot of times people just put these in, put a bolt on them, put a spacer, run them in. It's kind of the shitty way to do it. These definitely feel a little more snug than they should, but this is like, I don't know if I want to say the proper tool, but it is a tool built for this. It's got a bearing on the backside, so it'll spin. If you don't use the bearing and you tighten it in too tight, you will cave these in. Ask me how I know, I've done it before. So this will protect the surface, and then you just put a lug nut there and you spin that through. And that should protect the surface. Because a lot of times people just put like a block or another bolt here, and what you end up doing is you end up marring this pretty badly. So this prevents from that, and then you can just use the impact to suck it through. Hopefully, third time's a charm, and this works. These ones, I could probably tap back, like these used ones, I could probably tap back in with a hammer. So I've used this technique before, and it works, but the shoulder on this shank, on the ARP ones, is just a bit more aggressive. Maximum overkill for the AE86.
What's up, dude? I don't think Scotto's doing anything important right now. He's just putting extended studs on. He thinks he's gonna need it, but he doesn't.
He's like, I think these caves, it goes pretty deep, but.
God damn.
I know. She's in there. Voila. Thanks, Ron. That was way better than any of the other things we tried.
Dude, I use spanner wrenches as a washer and just fucking.
Yeah, but you can damage the face on the hub from doing that.
It didn't damage my face.
Whatever. All right, the diff's in and torqued. So now, these beautiful T3 dual caliper plates. We gotta mount those before the axles go in. I almost forgot. Throw that in. I'll put them at a slight angle. I don't know. I like my brakes at a slight angle. Of course, put a little of this Hermetex thread locker orange. If you haven't heard, holds like red, brakes like blue. So anyway, kind of love this stuff. And you know, you don't want this stuff to rattle loose. It's kind of overkill. I mean, I guess it's not. This is like what you should do, but we're gonna check what the white pattern and check what the backlash is. We didn't actually move the pinion, so it should be the same, but that doesn't mean it will be. We're gonna check that real quick, mainly because we're interested in doing it. If it's off, I don't know what we'll do. We might just send it.
So go forward and then backwards.
That looks pretty good.
They're actually, well, it's a little, it's pretty good though.
It's good enough.
Good enough.
What does that say right there? Acceptable pattern examples. Yeah, that's acceptable. It's bad when it only hits on the top, but it's rounding on the corners there, which is what you want. All right, let's wrap it all up. Oh, this thing's looking good all dressed. Hell yeah. Just got the temporary pan on for now. Get a nice little aluminum one later on. Did you say 219? It's still, I said 245, so I was way over. All right, so 216 for all of our links and our pan hard. Coil over. 233. So how much more was that? The other one was 162-ish. So about 60 pounds. 60 pounds more. Which works out well, because the engine's 60 pounds heavier than the 4AG. So literally, I keep the 50-50 weight distribution by adding 50 pounds to the back, right? Science like that makes sense. One last look at this sexy beast before we put it in the car. It's crazy how you could take stuff out of a Ford Explorer, add some Heim joints and some extended lugs and dual calipers, makes it look like race car parts. All right, there it is. Look at the size of that thing. Oh yeah, absolutely love Overkill. Like, I probably don't need an axle this big, but it's there, and I definitely need an axle that was stronger than the GTS axle, so this is the math that works. Yeah, dual calipers, coilovers are in. Swift springs. Still gotta weld these tabs in, so there's tabs here that mount the bottom of the coils. We still need to do some measurement, figure out exactly where those are gonna go and how that'll be set up, but yeah, we'll get that done, and at that point, pretty much the suspension is in the car. It obviously still needs to be dialed in. Brakes still need to be plumbed. We need to build some lines, but kind of got a lot done, right? Got front suspension, rear suspension, out of the car. I got all this Techno-Toy tuning stuff in, rebuilt the diff with carbon discs. So now it's all about trying to get the VR to fit in here. That's next episode.
So I'm just cutting random sections. Trick is, you just gotta pretend you know what you're doing.
Then it just works out in the end. See if it closes. I want to put in a handbrake. That means a lot. This handbrake was in Hoonigan V 0.5.